Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Sarah. Let's dive in. Cool. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of Women in B2B Marketing. Today, we are joined by Natalie Marcotullio, who is the head of growth and operations at Navatic. I got them right. Yay.
I was about to say 2 for 2.
Yay. But I'm so excited to talk with Natalie. I feel like I've seen her everywhere this past year. I think I've seen you at shows earlier this year, but I didn't get to chat with you. And all over my LinkedIn feed and Exit 5, you fresh off of a live event with Exit 5 just now. So excited to dive in and pick your brain as everyone else is this year.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always so funny when this world we live in now, when someone's like, I've seen you, but we haven't gotten to meet yet. It's like really cool,
Yes.
but the weird digital world we live in. But really excited for this conversation. Thanks for having me.
It's so funny. Yeah, thanks for joining. It's funny because where was this? At Golden Hour? I feel like, were you at Golden Hour?
I was, yeah. There were so many people there.
Yeah. So at Golden Hour, it felt like you were amongst, it was like LinkedIn feed, IRL, like just B2B celebrities everywhere. And I think Apollo did a really cool thing where they brought in photogs, like a bunch of people that are photographers pretending that these were real celebrities and following them around. And that's what it feels like, right? Like people recognize you and are like, oh, it's Natalie from Navatic. And just, it's funny. People know who you are in the B2B world. It's a funny world out there now.
It's something I'll never get used to. I don't really post on my Instagram. So learning to post on LinkedIn was a weird feeling, but I got to meet really amazing people through it. So I'll take sometimes the uncomfort of having to post on LinkedIn for the great people I've gotten to meet.
Yeah. It's so funny because LinkedIn has become my Facebook. I'm an elder millennial, so Facebook was our thing growing up. And then now it's just, I feel like LinkedIn is that for me now. It's totally transitioned.
I think LinkedIn's encouraging it, though. If you see with the fact that selfies are one of the things that perform the best, or I feel like LinkedIn really likes divisive content right now, which sometimes I don't love, but it seems like it wants to become people's Facebook.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's fun. Somebody said recently, I forget who it was. It may have been on Mason Cosby's podcast, the Scrappy ABM, but somebody was saying how LinkedIn, they're not very original. They copy all of the others. Like now they're trying to be like TikTok with the video piece, but it's still like B2B Mecca, even though they're not super forward thinking. They just take what works from other platforms.
I'm waiting for a new one eventually to come. Like they can do whatever they want because there's no one else.
Yeah. It would be interesting. You can never see it coming, though. Something comes out of nowhere and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Now I can't live without it. It'll be fun to see what that next one is.
Exactly.
So, Natalie, let's go into how you got into the world of B2B marketing and where you are today. What got you on this path?
Yeah. So I was actually a marketing major. I feel like it's probably 50-50, but I got tipped off by like a random alumni when I was in college of like, hey, you should learn Google Ads and Google Analytics. So it'll help your resume. I was like, cool, I need that. I need a resume boost. So I randomly just got Google Ads and Google Analytics certified. And that's how I got into this world of B2B marketing. I ended up working for a startup that was actually founded by another alumni of my college.
Oh, cool.
And was a growth marketer and like a growth hacker. I think it was literally a growth hacking intern. Like back when that was still a cool thing to be. Now I feel like people would like shudder at growth hackers.
Yeah.
So sort of just fell into it, but I ended up really liking it from the beginning. I liked the more analytical side of marketing to begin with. And like the constant, like I think of SEO like a constant puzzle. And that was really fun when I was first starting.
Cool. Oh, so many things I want to dive into there. So growth hacker and growth hacking has always been a term that gave me like an eye twitch. It just always irked me. Like some aspects of affiliate, right? Like the shady parts, it just gave me that same kind of vibe. But I'm so curious. It explains a lot because you are killing it at Navatic. You're doing such a great job. And are you a team of one or a small team?
2. So there's now 2 members of the marketing team. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So it's such a small team. It feels like you're a massive team, very similar to Chili Piper. There's just 3 of them right now. I think they're growing, but it feels like you guys are just massive companies with massive marketing teams. So to be able to do that, having that growth hacking background makes so much sense. Or is there anything you've taken from that start and applied to what you're doing now or in any position really?
I think what's different than what I've heard from a lot of other people in startups is I started in startups and started with like very little budget. Like I've almost always been a
Yeah.
team of one at a startup during COVID that basically our whole value proposition before COVID was we help more people sell face to face. You could
That
imagine how that COVID really
yeah.
hurt that. So I remember I had zero budget for a year, not just little
Wow.
budget. Literally, I think I had budget for two writers and nothing else. I just got really
Yeah.
used to doing marketing with very little and
Yeah.
figuring things out on my own. My default is always just all figure it out, sometimes to a flaw. I'm trying to be better about asking for help, but
Yeah.
I think that just was the way I was taught. There was no other alternative. It's like, you just figure it out.
Yeah. So that self-starting, scrappy mindset of not having much to work with and getting the most bang for every little buck that you have in your little budget. Love that. Oh, and also, sorry, before I dive into my next question, you mentioned SEO is also something really fun for you. How has that changed over the last 5 years? And is it still something you're playing with? Because right now, SEO, I'm hearing so much about SEO is dead, right? There's always something dead. I feel like that's the latest one because of the new, like basically zero click SERP, where the answers are right there. What are you doing on the SEO front now, or how it changed for you recently?
So I'd say I changed when I joined Novatic. So pre
Yeah.
Novatic, I did have that SEO background. I wasn't like an SEO, I wasn't great at it, but I did well enough where I got our website. I think it was like 3x impressions, did a lot of growth
Cool.
towards it, cranked out a bunch of blogs. But then I put out all these blogs. I ranked for all the keywords, did all the things I was supposed to. And only like two blog posts actually converted. And I probably could have done a better job slowly dripping people to that blog post. But it just felt like so much money was being spent on these keywords that never really was going to get someone to convert. So when I joined Novatic, I don't want to do SEO content. And
Mm.
in some degree, it has hurt us a little bit. But I decided I want content that is actually going to be unique and valuable. That's like a framework I apply to every marketing, but unique. Like I don't want my content just to be a summary of 5 other pieces of content, because that's what most content on Google is if you want to rank. Everything we write has to have a unique perspective, unique data, unique example no one else could get. And valuable, I sourced all my ideas from sales and CS and talking with customers and prospects. I don't do keyword research anymore. So I've entirely
Mm.
thought about shifted how I do SEO and really don't create content for SEO anymore. I create it for our customers.
Wow. That's such a different mindset to have. It's so funny because SEO, it's just ingrained in you as a marketer to marry the two. What is our audience interested in and what search terms are telling us? Like those interviews and that and marrying it. I love that you're just creating value. What do our customers want to hear? What do our prospects need answers to? And building that out. Have you seen that succeeding? Is that, I'm assuming that has a higher conversion rate than the SEO strategy.
So it's funny because I don't even really measure the conversion rate on our blogs. And I will say, I still have a few very keyword specific pieces for those few that I need, like interactive demos. I have a blog post on that. But what
Yeah.
I'm not doing is all those like tertiary keywords that aren't going to get someone to convert. And because I create content more for prospects and customers, I actually don't really look at the conversion rates of them. But what I hear all the time from sales and CS is, oh my God, whenever a customer has a question, I have a piece I can send them that exactly answers that question. And I can't tell you how
Oh,
helpful that is. Like
I
I had a new
love
rep start
that.
this week and be like, I love our content. And I almost cried because every marketer knows how hard it is to get sales
Yes.
to use your content. So when she said that before she even started, I was like, you don't understand how much that meant to me.
Yes. I love that. So that it's focusing on content creation for adding value for the customers slash sales enablement, right? Because they're able to strengthen those relationships. They have answers. They don't have to come to us like marketing after the fact and say, oh, we need something on ABC. It's more proactive that you're pulling this and creating for them. Awesome.
Exactly.
Very cool. Another cool thing that you're doing at Novatic, I know I think you just talked about this on Exit 5, but you released a buyer's report, and I believe it was in conjunction with Chili Piper. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So I'm so curious. I DM'd you about this and wanted to chat about it on the podcast because the report was really great, just well done and valuable for the audience, which would include me. But it was just really great insight that I shared with my team. And it was also just in a meta way, right? Like the content's great. I want to talk about the report, but then also the leveraging of the report behind the scenes as a marketer to get this in front of your audience and spread it via word of mouth. Like I'm sharing it with my team. You have influencers sharing it and like on LinkedIn, Chili Piper's doing finding that partner. If you could unpack the marketing behind the scenes journey of creating this report from idea to fruition, I would love like that walkthrough.
Yeah. And what's funny is I would love to say, I was like, I have this brilliant idea for a report from the moment I joined. I'm going to do this and this. That is not what happened at all. Basically, last year, I met with Arthur from Chili Piper back when he
Yeah.
was at Chili Piper. And we were just brainstorming and we're like, hey, I feel like we have a very similar ICP. We have a very similar message of make B2B buying easier. What could we do
Mm,
together? And I don't love partnership. But like some companies do it very well. Just for myself, I try to avoid webinars. I'm not a big fan of the partnership webinar or just like a blog post. So we're trying to think what could be a little different. And again, just listening and talking to sales and CS, I feel like I hear a lot that like marketers understand that B2B buying is bad and that their market wants it to be easier. Like
yeah.
marketers know they need to make buying their software simpler for better website conversion rates or just better process. But it's often their boss or sales who doesn't want to do things like put pricing on the website or let someone automatically book time with the sales team. So we're always
Yeah.
trying to brainstorm like how could we come up with a piece of content that enables the marketer to make a case for to the rest of their team. Exactly what you're talking about, sharing it internally. That was awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So really it started there and we were just like, what if we provide data? I did another report more focused on interactive demos, but I saw how successful just providing unique data could be. So like, what if we just put together a report looking at the top 100 B2B SaaS websites? It's funny because it was a win. We're like either the top B2B SaaS websites, and that's the biggest, largest companies right now, either they're doing it really well, right? Either they make it super easy to book a demo, they have public pricing, they show their product transparently on their website. And then the narrative of this report could be, look how well the top B2B 100 SaaS companies are doing. You should follow what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or, which unfortunately, this is more what the first report ended up being.
Yeah.
They're not doing a great job. It was like a 2-day response time. 35% of companies never responded to us. Only 17% had interactive demos and like 58 had pricing, which that one was
Wow.
pretty good. But so then the narrative we decided to frame around was like, oh, B2B buying needs help. Look, even the top 100 B2B SaaS companies have gaps. So that was
Yeah.
last year. Then we did the report again this year after we saw the success. And this year we actually did see improvements across the board. So we did frame a little more of a narrative like, look, B2B buying has gotten better. This is how it's gotten better and why we think it's gotten better. And this one was a little more prescriptive than last year. Last year was just like, here's the data.
Yeah.
This year was a little more, and this is how you can apply these best practices.
Oh, so cool. Do you think that having that first party data and like that just something proprietary to share, that you did this analysis and took the time to analyze this to save someone else the time or looking individually, like putting that together was a big draw for people, even though like we know the purpose, right? Like, this is a marketing piece, but it's still bringing value to me because this is like a summary of what I would want to know and learn from. So
I think yes, in that one, no one wants to go book demos with 100
yeah.
companies. Anyone could do it. That's what's kind of
Yeah.
interesting about this report. You could do it,
Yeah.
but most people probably don't want to. And another thing is, I actually looked at all 100 websites. I looked at every single email follow up we got from it. So also, it just takes time. And I like doing reports that way. I like doing smaller data sets and like really getting the qualitative insights because
Yeah.
then when I'm writing, why do I think it's this way? I have the like qualitative, oh, like for example, my hypothesis is why we saw a lot more pricing pages this year versus last is because pricing is now a really good intent signal. And part of the reason I thought
Mm,
that was I saw a lot more pricing pages on the main nav bar. So it's like, oh, companies clearly want people to go to pricing now that it's become this intent signal. You can use Clearbit to see
yeah.
who's viewing your pricing page. But I wouldn't have gotten that insight if I didn't look at all 100 websites and saw pricing was now on the main nav bar.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And I'm curious, you mentioned like for the SEO pieces and your content that you're creating to add value and for sales enablement, you don't really track the conversion. It's more hearing anecdotally that this is helping and that people find value and love the content, which is great. How are you tracking performance on a report like this? Do you have set goals from this, or is it again an extension of just adding value to your audience and brand?
I will say for the SEO piece, while we don't measure exact conversions, we still have the classic how do you hear about us? And SEO is still one of our biggest levers. Granted, people just say Google. So I don't fully trust it. But
Yeah.
similar to the report, right? We measure, did website traffic increase? Did we get increased traffic to our LinkedIn page? Do we get more brand awareness? But we don't really measure direct conversions on this report because the whole report's about how to make B2B buying better. If we stuck a bunch of CTAs in there that said buy Novatic, everyone
Yeah.
who read the report would be like, you're kidding me.
Uh-huh.
So we tried to make it very top of funnel educational. And we just know that more than like conversions, we know it's aligning people mentally with Novatic and B2B buying better experience. And what we're trying to do is create that association where internally, when someone says, hey, we need to solve our B2B buying experience, the first companies they think of are Novatic and Chili Piper because that's where
Yeah.
they got the data from. So it's a much more of a brand play, which I know can really frustrate some people because it's not as measurable.
Yeah.
But this one in particular report, we know, and I say that up front to my leaders, this is a brand play. This is us trying to create a strategic narrative around better B2B buying. This is not a conversion piece.
Yes. That's so important from the get-go, right? Setting the expectations and what your goals are from this. It's not to drive X MQLs. It's to drive awareness so that when somebody is in a position to buy and they are in market, they know, they think of us automatically. Exactly. Is that kind of your marketing philosophy in general, like just super high level of adding this value, building your brand so that there's awareness that's then starting to drive demand so that when somebody is in market, they come in of their own accord. You're not pushing them through a funnel, right? You're just building that awareness and making sure you're out there and top of mind when it's time for them to purchase.
100%. When I first joined Novatic, I compared our marketing. Like this was the vision I set. Because I live in New York. New York's a very trendy place. And every now and then there's just like a new fad that comes up. And I've talked about this before. So if you've heard this story, sorry, but I think it's a good one. For example, I feel like there are always new shoes or purses. Randomly, everyone just has the same pair of white sneakers.
Oh, it's so
You
true.
walk around New York and you're like, why does everyone has the same pair of white sneakers? And then you see, oh, this influencer has it. Your friend has it. It's on that billboard. And then suddenly when you're going to buy white sneakers, am I going to go Google white sneakers and sort through hundreds of results? Or am I just going to text my 5 friends who have those white sneakers and say, do you like them? Cool.
Yeah.
And that's the strategy I wanted with Novatic. If we're just everywhere, when it comes time for you to buy an interactive demo, and I will say we have a pretty straightforward product. So I think that helps.
Yeah.
But when it comes time,
That's
you're just going to go, oh, Novatic, duh, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Because when I have a few WhatsApp groups that are other B2B marketers or GTM leaders, right? And it's 100% like the same as I see this water bottle. I actually get annoyed now because I see everybody with this water bottle, Owala. I just love it because you can sip it like a straw. Anyway, everyone check out Owala. They're great. But now I see everyone with it and it annoys me. But it's so true. It's so similar when you see everybody with those white shoes or like the V shoes. I forget what that even stands for. Do you remember what that is? The Vera, something like that.
Yeah, that's the one I'm referencing.
Yeah.
I don't usually say the brand, but anyone in New York probably understands the V shoes. Yeah.
They're big in Miami too. But like you see that and then you ask your friends. Like I asked someone who was wearing them, like, oh, are those really comfy? And the same with B2B, right? Like I see like Novatic, for instance, if I'm in market to buy, I would go to these WhatsApp groups like, hey, has anyone tried Novatic? What do you think of it? And I'd get their thoughts. Or if I see it on LinkedIn, I see somebody sharing about it, I'll DM them like, oh, I see that you use it. How do you use it for? Pick their brain. So it's so true. It's so similar how it works with this B2B celebs or having your little groups of B2B friends now. It's very similar to B2C in that way.
I think B2B is just so crowded these days that it's almost too exhausting to buy software. And we've reverted back to, I just want to go with the brand I know and trust.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to the supermarket, and I hate really crowded supermarkets for this reason. And there's just like 20 sodas. And at some point you're like, I'm just going to buy Coke because I know it and people like it generally. So that has to mean something.
Yeah, exactly. So which ones come top of mind? Whether like everyone's talking about this year too. It was also at the CMO Summit from Pavilion was, what is your short list, right? Everyone comes with their short list of what in B2B, it's from LinkedIn, from your little circles, your WhatsApp groups in the space. And you have that short list and you just go to them and narrow it down from there. So it's how to get into that short list. And per what you're saying, which I totally agree with, is adding value to your audience, creating content that gets you top of mind with them, that just there's a positive association, right? They learned something from you. They gained something. They got ideas or inspired by what you created and put in front of them. So they have this positive association with your brand now.
And even just a little bit of trust. Like if they trust your brand, and we try to hold up to this, then they're going to trust us when we enter the sales cycle, that they're not going to be just pitch slapped and that
Yeah.
it's going to be a bad buying experience. When they get a CSM, they trust that they'll be responsive and helpful. I think building that trust as early as possible, because we've all been burned by buying bad software and being
Yeah.
maybe not trustworthy. I think it just
Yeah.
ingrains in their mind a little bit. And that's why we
Yeah.
need to stay true to it and always put out content that is helpful, just to keep reminding people that is the end goal. We're here to be helpful, not to lick you.
So true. Another way that you're building trust, and this is with the report, one of your levers that you pulled that I was so impressed by, but you're also leveraging this in general with just getting people like influencers on your advisory board. And tell me whatever I'm saying wrong here, but I know you have a group of advisors at Novatic that is basically the mecca of B2B GTM people. So A, how did you get them and how are you leveraging them? Because when they share anything about Novatic, it just seems so authentic. Like it's not a boilerplate that they're just copy pasting and sharing and getting paid for. You can see that the people are like, they're sharing because they're like excited about it. So I'm curious how you get that going and where that came from.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because that's the goal, that it doesn't feel like you're just being a paid post or something.
Yeah.
And they are advisors. That's what we call them. They do some influencing, but I've heard a million different things it's being called. But basically, it started out again. I did not have this grand vision. I just thought, oh, I want to try to get away the white sneaker effect. Like, how can I create that? And then there were some people that were naturally talking about interactive demos. And we just got connected through LinkedIn. We started getting in touch. We had some customers who were a little more vocal and seen as a little more influencers in the space. So we started thinking like, okay, how can we get them involved, both from an advising standpoint? Like, how can we get their input, but also how can we get them talking about Novatic, make this more formal? So it really started again, just like a handful of people very organically. They were already posting about interactive demos. And that was the
Yeah.
rule from the start. It was like, hey, don't feel like you have to mention Novatic. People might bring it up in the comments, but we really want these posts to be like educational. Like, the first goal when I joined was like, let's just get people to learn what an interactive demo is, because that's step number one.
Yeah.
Then as it became more mature, once we figured out what we wanted to call it and how to work with these advisors, that's when we started growing it. And it's become a lot more like organized of a program now. And now it is 70% advising. That's the behind the scenes people don't see, is these people, I have a Slack channel with them. I ask them for feedback. I send them a monthly newsletter where I give them updates on product, our top go-to-market initiatives,
Yeah.
things I need help or feedback on. We have like product feedback calls with them once a quarter. So they are, and a lot of them are either ex-customers, current customers, or they're consultants. So like their customers are customers. So they get it, they understand why it's valuable. And
Hmm.
so they're learning a lot about what are our top initiatives, how does Novatic work, what are different use cases. So that's how I
Yeah.
hope it feeds into that authenticity, where we're not just giving them something to post about that they don't know anything about. Like, they're
Yeah.
pretty deeply ingrained in our go-to-market.
Oh, it's so cool. Has there ever been a time where an advisor, and you don't have to name the advisor, but it would be great if you had an example, where an advisor was like, oh no, you can't do that, and like totally changed your GTM approach or something for the product? Because I'm assuming they're advising on both sides, right? Like product and features, but also your go to market, which is so cool. By the way, it's like you have your own CMO school like built into work.
Yeah, when we talk about me being a team of one, really it's them. That's how I'm able to
So
do it, because
cool.
I have a bunch of experts I can tap on. And I recognize I'm in a very lucky position where they are both marketers and our ICP. So I know this is
Yeah.
unique, but I still think even if they weren't advising me on marketing stuff, just having an ICP I can talk to if
Yeah.
I have questions. And to answer your question, it was website messaging. Like, I've thrown out
Ah,
website messaging to them before, which, oh my God, this is the biggest hack. Anyone who's ever had the struggle of trying to align internally on website messaging,
yes.
this is what you do. You get customers or advisors, whoever you can. And honestly, like, I remember one time I threw out some ideas and they were like, these are too complicated. These are too in the weeds, way too jargony. And one of
Ah,
them just put out, it's actually what our homepage messaging is right now. It's make B2B buying better. I should know that. I'm pretty sure it's make
yes.
B2B buying better.
When you look at
Something
something too
along
much, it like it floats away.
something left my brain. But it was really from our advisors taking what I had written that was way too complex. I'm like, how can we say this really simply?
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I was like, I love that. That's so much better than what I wrote. But it was a little hard to convince the rest of my team, because we always had pretty
Mm,
product focused language before.
yeah.
But the second I took that screenshot, I was like, but this advisor who we all know, respect, and love, they were the ones who put that out. then
Yeah.
suddenly everyone was okay with this messaging. So ultimate hack,
Wow.
if you have advisors, is don't say you came up with the idea, say
Yeah.
they did, which is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So it's like a brainstorming session too, right? Where you're like sharing your ideas, it gets things started, but then they can tweak and make it perfection. And just like you're doing with your content externally building trust, you can leverage the advisors to do that internally for to support your messaging after you check with them.
And what was fun was just in a Slack channel.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Oh,
anything super
cool.
planned or serious. I
Yeah.
just threw out some things in a Slack channel. And then it was also fun because then they were commenting on each other's ideas. Like I watched
Yeah.
live brainstorming. And when I first made the advisor program, I didn't think they'd want to be in a shared Slack channel.
Yeah.
I was like, everyone's in enough Slack channels. I don't know if advisors want to know each other. Is that
Yeah.
weird? And they were the ones who were like, I gotta get to know the other advisors. And now I've seen advisors become friends. I've seen advisors become advisors of each other for their companies. I've seen them like work together. Like,
Yeah.
that honestly has been one of the coolest parts is it's almost become a mini community.
Yeah, that's so cool. It probably depends on the group, right? Because there's some in different industries that aren't that social or they are communitied out or Slack channeled out. But it's if you can find that group that sees the value in them connecting with this other group, that's amazing. Because I'm assuming the group that you have, knowing who a lot of them are on LinkedIn, like they're probably self starters on and very engaged on this Slack channel. Was there anything that you did to drive engagement and kickstart things with this group when you got it together?
I think this is gonna sound counterintuitive, but I really try to balance how much information I share and ask of them. I
Mm.
try not to ask too much. So when I do have something important, it's very clear, hey, all the website messaging, I really need everyone's help and input on this.
Yeah.
But I really try not to ask too much because everyone's really busy. And I know if I just have, like, I posted every single one of my LinkedIn posts in that channel. I was like, hey, can you guys engage with this?
Yeah.
They're going to tune it out. And a lot of them do it
Yeah.
without me asking, but I also understand they all have jobs. That's something I
Yeah.
constantly try to remind anyone who's doing an advisor program. And yes, this is another topic. I think you should just pay them flat rate, not like equity or not per post. So
Yeah.
yes, you are paying them, but they're all really busy. They're all hyper successful. That's how they got to where they are. So I really try to be understanding of, hey, maybe you're busier this month. Maybe you can't post or engage as much, but the next month you do something else. Or maybe I won't spam you with every single LinkedIn post, but if one's really important, that's when I ask you to engage.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. Yeah, because it's getting rid of the noise, right? If you ask
Mm.
too much of them, then it's going to all sound like noise to them and they're not going to pay attention. But if it's just strategically asking periodically and then letting them talk amongst themselves otherwise, right? Because I'm assuming, are they talking amongst themselves too, or just when you ask these strategic questions?
Every now and then, sometimes people post and they like, oh, I'm thinking about this topic or I'm thinking about doing this. And they also get advice. But mostly when I'm posting, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think that's something I could probably be better about is encouraging like other dialogue or conversations outside of just Nevada.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to ask you a question that we didn't prep for, but I'm curious because you just brought in that. Is there anything else, either during your time at Nevadic or previously, that was just like a big learning moment for you that you realized, okay, we were doing this wrong and this is something I need to do better next time? Like anything that comes in mind that was just a big learning point for you?
This is going to be a little bit of a cop out, but at my last company and when I was first like learning marketing, I just like dove right into tactics and
Mm,
didn't spend time to understand my audience at all. And I'd mentioned my last startup, we were outside sales software. It's also
yeah.
really hard to get into the mind of an outside salesperson, very different than a New York girl.
Yeah.
But I didn't like I learned the features and the their slogans, there we go. And all the like generic talking points, but I never really met an outside sales rep. And it wasn't
Yeah.
until I was like 3, 4 years in that I finally started meeting customers, talking with them, listening to customer calls. And I was like, oh, I was doing all these things without
Wow.
doing the core of actually getting to know our customers. So when I first
Yeah.
joined Nevadic, that's part of the reason I wanted this advisory group. And I always tell our sales and CS team, because we sell to marketers. I'm a marketer. Sometimes people want to talk to me. I'm like, I will always talk to a customer or prospect because this is learning for me. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to be good at my job if I don't. That's how I get
Yeah.
my ideas for my content. That's how I know if something's good or not. So it's
Yeah.
kind of obvious one, but something I epically failed at my past company at first was actually learning and getting to know our customers.
Yeah.
And I think something that's been such a value add in Nevada. And again, I have a big leg up where our customers are me. It's super easy to talk to them.
Yeah, that's true. Cause it's like peer to peer. It's a good point. I think a lot of us like know inside that we need to talk to the customers. We need to know our audience, right? That's baked into us. But many of us still glaze over it. I don't think it's the marketer that typically wants to glaze over that, but I've had in the past at least one boss, probably two, like CEOs who are like, oh, we already know our customer. Our customer is this, these are their pain points. Here's all the docs that we have from 10 years ago, from 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, still outdated, right? And this is who they are. This is their pain points. I'm just like, because they want you to jump into it, not take the time to learn the language and learn the current pain points because it changes every year, every few months. So we need to take that time to do that.
It's hard to say, yeah, I'm just starting a new job and oh, I'm just going to talk to customers all day.
Yeah.
I do think one thing I tried to do, and I did this subconsciously, I didn't think about it, but now if I start a new role, I would really do this, is when I first joined, get some really quick wins. Like 50% of the time is quick wins. So for example, I redid our content strategy when I first joined Nevada and restructured our ads because it was really bad before.
Yeah.
And those were quick things I knew how to do that immediately brought in some leads. So then when I was spending my other 50% of the time getting to know customers, jumping on those calls, it didn't feel like as, oh, what's Natalie doing? Why'd we hire her to not bring in any value?
Yeah, that's true. You have to do that mix because everyone wants to see movement, right? But you're also still, you want to learn and iterate, but you can do that a little bit at the same time. So one thing I want to dive into your background as well, too. I think I saw on LinkedIn that you were previously a chief of staff. I'm curious how you got into that world and would you ever go back?
I can answer the second question first. No, I would never go back, but I would tell anyone to do it.
Okay.
So I am so glad I did it. I think I learned so much. And basically, at some point, I was just doing a lot of like operational stuff at my past startup. I was turned into like the sales ops person somehow. And then I ended up turning into like I was doing modeling, which is funny because it's not my strong suit. But every now and then I pull out a model at Nevada and people are like, oh, I forgot about that side of you. But I was just doing a lot more than marketing. I had done marketing for a while and I wanted something different, but I wasn't going to be like operations officer. I was still younger. I still didn't really have that experience. So me and my CEO actually sat down together and said, what should my title be? Like I will still partly do marketing, but I want to be more cross-functional. And we just like, came together and thought about chief of staff. I was working really closely with my CEO, so it made a lot of sense. And I actually joined like a chief of staff like Slack community and like online community to learn more about it. Ultimately, I came together and learned that chief of staff just means anything. But the biggest thing I took away from it was just like working with other departments. That is why I think anyone should do it, especially if you're not sure what you want to do, because I got to learn the ins and outs so much better of what sales does and what's important for them, what CS does and what's important to them. And that made me such a better marketer and a lot better at getting buy-in or understanding how to talk to those departments. But I wouldn't do it again because I got really sick of doing a lot of work, but not owning anything. Chief of staff, you're helping everyone, but you never are owning a specific goal or department.
That's interesting. Yeah, you're right. And I've seen it at different companies mean totally different things. And all different kinds of people have been in that position with all different kinds of backgrounds. But that's fascinating. You're right. They assist everybody and push things forward and then report back to the CEO and are an extra cog in between, but you're not owning it yourself. That's interesting.
I'd also say I got really good at recognizing inefficiencies. And that's why I'd also recommend anyone become a chief of staff because you learn quickly how much miscommunication and just like we've done it before or just inefficient thinking causes businesses to slow down. So now I'm like really direct at work. I definitely state my opinion. I do not have meetings for the sake of meetings. And that seeing the whole org at almost like a top up level really helped me recognize that.
Yeah. I wonder, so being a team of two and achieving so much, this kind of goes into the ops side of things. And is it all about efficiency and organizing your time? Or what do you think is the key to success there and like hitting your targets and driving pipeline and achieving so much on such a small team?
I honestly think a lot of it's just saying no.
Yeah.
Which I know sounds scary to say, but I literally had my CEO say this to me, which I was shocked. And he was like, if I had to summarize your superpower, it would be prioritization. And I am very strict about how many projects we can work at once, how many things I'm doing. And I say to people all the time, like, that is a great idea. We'll think about that next quarter. Or it took me 2.5 years at Nevada to launch a newsletter. a very
Yeah.
basic marketing newsletter because one, I'm going to say I didn't have time or I just never slotted in. And
Yeah.
then two, I never could think of a way to make a newsletter like unique and valuable. So I'm just
Yes.
very strict. If there's not a way to make it different, I'm just not going to do it for the sake of doing it.
Very cool. Do you have a set number of projects you can do at a time?
I usually try to keep it to like 3 major projects a quarter, and each one of those would roll up to one OKR. And
Cool.
that I still have ongoing stuff behind the scenes. So, for example, if one major project is like last quarter, a major project was launching that report, that was one
Yeah.
of the three. I'm still creating our blog content. I'm still posting on LinkedIn. There's the engine stuff that's always running, but net new projects, I really try to keep to 2 to 3 a quarter. And
Yeah.
those are bigger ones, not like releasing one blog post.
Yeah. Are there any organized systems that you use to keep yourself on track here? Like any tools or Google Sheets? What works for you to keep things moving?
I live and die by my calendar.
Yeah.
I spend too much time living and dying by my calendar where I don't do to-do lists really.
Yeah.
I'll do it backwards. If I have a project, I'll outline, okay, if I want it done by this date, I need to do this and this before it. And that
Yeah.
I'll do. I do it all on Notion and that will be to-do listy. But every day to day, I schedule out what I'm going to do on my calendar. So at the beginning of the week, I usually schedule it out. When I'm doing my quarterly planning, I will schedule out like I'll leave big chunks of time on my calendar to do bigger projects. Usually in the morning, that's my best.
Yeah.
And so every single day I wake up knowing exactly what I'm going to do that day and usually keep to it. The downside is I get unnecessarily hard on myself when I don't accomplish
Yes.
all the things I put on my calendar
Same.
or if things have to move around and spend too much time being like, oh, I'm low energy today. That high energy task, I just can't do. So I'll move it to tomorrow. And I'm like, the
Yeah.
time I spent thinking about this task, I probably could have just done the task.
But sometimes you're just not in the right vibe. So I get it. Speaking of that, I struggle personally with what's the word? Like respecting my own time blocks. If somebody else is on it, right? Because I've tried doing this, okay, this hour's for this, then these 2 hours are going to be for this, heads down. Then if somebody comes in, oh, can you move your XYZ time slot? Because I really need to chat about ABC. And I always say yes. It's the worst. I respect time with other people so much more than my own time blocks. Do you have any advice for that? Was that ever a struggle for you?
I was going to say, this is my tip is my Calendly. I don't let people book in the morning, which
Mm,
annoying. So I'm sorry, anyone who's ever booked time with me. But all my big working times are between like 8 a.m. to 11. So I
yeah,
don't let people book time. And we're a small company. So luckily I don't have to worry as much about internal booking. But
true.
external, I just don't let people see that time. So that really has helped actually keep my mornings. I rarely have a meeting before 11 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. That sounds beautiful because I'm the same. Mornings are my like productive time. But right now, that's when I'm on all of my meetings with the EMEA team. But that's if you can do that and you carve out a certain block and you just respect that, keep that as your XYZ time, it's building a habit, same as anything else.
And I think just eliminating that mental hurdle every day of like, what do I need to do? What needs to get done? As much as sometimes I think I over optimize my calendar, it's also how I know I'm going to get everything done. And when someone asks me to do things, this also helps me say no. Or I've gotten really in the habit of
Mm,
rather than saying yes, I'll say, when do you need that by? Or yes, I can do that, but I'm looking at my calendar right now. There is no time for that activity till next Monday. Is that okay? And 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh yeah, that's fine.
so
I'm
true.
just trying to get about that too. Instead of just saying yes to something, saying I can do it by this date. Is that okay? Or when do you need that by?
Hmm. Oh, so good. Okay. This is like a new thing to get me to start respecting my own time and organizing. And because I'm a to do list person, but I love the idea of putting it on a calendar as long as you stick to it. You don't do what I do and let other people take over those time slots. One other thing. So going back into like your report was definitely, it seems like a huge success externally. Are there any other either channels or general ideas that you see working right now for B2B, like driving pipeline, driving growth of any kind?
This is going to be an annoying answer again, but a lot at this point, our second highest lead channel is word of mouth, which is
Mm,
very hard to measure and know where it's coming from. And that's things like colleague, friend, saw another company using it. We also do have a little bit of a natural viral loop because people see other websites using interactive demos and are like, oh, that's cool. I want the same experience.
yeah.
So I will caveat this is a little bit Nevadic focused. But I think a lot of that is coming from the fact that we are doing a lot of in-person events. We're doing a lot of conferences. We have our advisor influencer program. So it's not like one specific tactic, but I think it's a combination of a lot of those more personal, human to human types of channels that's
Yeah.
culminating in this rise of word of mouth leads.
Interesting. How do you like with these different channels? Events are sometimes easier to track if you have a list that you're working off of, right? But how do you justify spend on things like when you're getting word of mouth back and you can't really tie it down to a specific person? How in this world where everybody in the C-suite wants to see, okay, I have a 10x pipeline from this channel and 3x closed from this channel, and like when you're expected to report on that, how do you justify the word of mouth lead source?
So what really helps is two things. One, having sales back up how much they love the word of mouth lead source, because
Uh,
sometimes sales can get better attribution. Like they'll ask the prospect, where'd you hear about us? And sales will
yeah.
report back, this person came from this conference and they were a great lead. And then sales said it and leadership listens. And on top of just the qualitative of sales, I'll show that word of mouth has, like right now, it's our highest revenue channel, even though it's our
Mm.
second highest lead channel. And then it has a better close rate and like a shorter sales cycle. So I think showing some of those other metrics beyond just like how many leads did we get from it, showing that they're higher quality really helps justifying. And luckily, I also will say I have a leadership team that gets it. They
Yeah.
understand, they've seen it. I think that's another thing. Like, bring your leadership to a conference and they'll see the power that word of mouth creates. When people come up
Mm.
to your booth and know who you are and like, oh, I love Nevada. I heard Natalie on a
Ah.
podcast or something, then it really starts clicking more of how powerful this is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So not the event itself driving word of mouth, it's word of mouth activating the events for you and driving more people to your booth or however you're presented there.
Yeah, it's all just a big, I hate the word flywheel.
Yeah.
That feels so marketing targeting, but it all
Uh-huh.
does feed into each other.
Yeah. Oh, so interesting. And yeah, word of mouth, it makes sense that it goes back to trust that you were talking about in the beginning, where word of mouth, they've heard about you from somewhere, they've seen you all over LinkedIn, heard you on a podcast, you personally. So then they have these ties and then they come in, so they're much easier to close. They're already bought in, they already know about Nevadic. People they trust have supported it. So it makes sense that the close rates are higher for those. In the flip side, is there anything that you see people doing or that you've tested and are just done with? You're over it.
I'm still doing it, but and I come again from like a Google Ads background.
Yeah.
I'm so over how expensive Google Ads are. And I've
Yes.
described it, and luckily, all of my leadership team agrees with it. I describe it, it is a tax now. It is not a lead channel. It's ROI positive. Every quarter I do an analysis. It always pays for itself, but barely. But what it is it's a
Ah,
tax. So one, because if we don't pay for our own keyword, then our competitors will. They'll show up in sales cycle. Sales will say, this competitor came up nowhere. Someone will say, oh, I Googled Nevadic and they showed up. That's why. I'm still doing it. So I don't know if I'm over it, but I think I now have this mentality that Google Ads is a tax. It is not a channel. It's not a strategy. It is something that we must do.
yeah,
And we're also in a very competitive market.
true.
But if I could wave a magic wand and make one channel disappear forever, it would be that,
Yeah.
because we're all wasting so much money on it. That's what
Yes.
makes me so annoyed. I almost want to get a pact with all of our competitors and just be like, guys, we're all just wasting each other's money. Let's all use that
Yes.
money to do cooler, more interesting things.
You could do that. I've heard of people doing that before. You just get a pact and save that budget. You could use it elsewhere. Worth a shot until somebody breaks the pact, right?
We have too many. There's 30 plus players in this space.
Wow.
Yeah.
Insane. I wonder, is most of your paid search spend and budget allocated for brand then?
A
Ah, okay.
lot brand, very again, typical keywords like interactive demo. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you also see, this is a very selfish question because it's what I'm seeing search ads. Do you see a lot of junk coming in lately? I'm seeing so much of just, I don't know if it's bots or something, or we're doing something wrong, but it seems like more junk than usual lately.
I don't know about junk, but it usually is some of our worst leads. And I
Yeah.
think it's by nature, it's always going to be a more competitive deal, right? They found us on Google. They're not
Yeah.
maybe as familiar with the brand. Like they haven't built that brand love like someone who comes in with word of mouth does.
Yeah.
But it's usually tends to be like that, not as good fit companies, smaller companies. It's not usually our highest quality leads coming in from Google.
Yeah. Such a good point. Okay. If you could give any advice to yourself just starting out in your career, what would it be knowing all that you know now?
The longer I've worked, the more I constantly say, I'm convinced I know nothing. I think my biggest advice would just be like, keep that mindset, always try to learn by doing, learning from others, constantly growing. Like it doesn't, I am always a fan of like, okay, let's experiment with it. Let's try it. None of us actually know. So rather than just
Yeah.
ego fighting, let's do something
Yeah.
versus just trying to convince ourselves that someone has the best idea. Because really, none of us know. There have been times I've been so right. There have been times I've been so wrong. So might as well test it rather than just constantly try to be convinced that I know all.
Right. Yes. Just having that open mindset and get started. Stop talking about it and do it and see if it works.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't, try something else.
Exactly.
Love it. Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us for the show. This was so great. I have a ton of inspiration and just more reasons to get organized in my calendar and stick to it. So thank you for that motivation. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
So fun. And everybody who's listening, thank you for listening today. If you want, I'll put a link in show notes, but you can find Natalie on LinkedIn. That's the best place to connect with you.
Of course, I'm there way too often.
Ditto. Thank you for listening. If you like the episode, share with a friend, share on LinkedIn, just get us in front of more faces. It helps this little show grow. So thank you, everyone. See you next time.